Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. Joy the Wise Woman is my spiritual name. And I'm so excited to have as my guest today Shaashawn the Voice Dial. I met her a few weeks ago in a connection call on LinkedIn, and I was just thrilled with with her message and what she's doing out in the world. I thought, wow, would you please come on and be a guest on my show? And she said she'd be delighted, particularly since she's a voice for a lot of women and men, probably too, who don't have thought they have a voice. And she's got some very personal and very interesting things to share with us, her own story about what she wants to accomplish in the world and why she wants to accomplish it in the world and what she stands for. And I think you're going to be really, truly amazed, as was and am, by her story today and what she's doing to make a difference in the world for particularly in the queer world, because we need advocates, we need thought leaders and game changers and agents of change. Really, we need people. We need change agents. Is what we need. I can't get the word right.
All of
She
it.
is definitely a change agent. So, Shaashawn, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your story and how you got into this place and got into this space, and just tell us a little bit about maybe a little bit about what you were like before you had this realization that you had all these superpowers.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. I come in gratitude for you and Joya. It's a pleasure to share time and space with both of you. I am unapologetically Black, queer woman, spelled WOMXN, to remind myself and ourselves that we don't only have to define ourselves by our relationships to men. I'm an Army brat, a Gemini, firstborn. I am someone who is flawed, consistently evolving into greatness and trying to live up to the unique name that I've been given. I'm a dialogue facilitator, a intersectional, multimodal educator, and really I'm a celebrator. I'm a documenter of life, the little moments, the big moments, because they're all extraordinary. And I am a lover of people. So that's people of color, queer people of different ages, people of different veteran statuses or civilians, people of different ethnicities, faith orientations or no faith orientation, physical, cognitive, linguistic abilities, all of it. Right? The world is so much better and richer and engaging and special because of our differences. So I'm a celebrator of differences and providing brave spaces where we can talk about that, because most of us were given social programming that said, shh, don't talk about that stuff. Don't talk about
Weren't they
sex,
were?
religion, politics, money. But that harms us, right? That
Right.
harms our spiritual selves to not be able to talk about the elements of who we are.
And those are such key elements. I mean, those are the things that matter. And if we're not willing to share and be vulnerable and share our what our convictions, what we value, it's not about I don't want to share with you my religious beliefs, but I do want to share with the world my convictions that I believe in, not to change you, but so that maybe you can understand what I value and I want to hear that about you. So these all those things you just listed are exactly the kind of things I like to talk about here on my show. So you can talk about any of those things that you want to here, and I would love to hear your perspective on any of those things. But let me ask you one question real quickly. If you could boil it down to the one thing you're the most passionate about, the one thing you'd really like to see change in this lifetime, that your legacy could be known for. Shaashawn did this in her lifetime, and this is the impact you made on the world. What would that be?
Ooh, it would be that I uh, showed up in the world in the full expression of my humanity. And it was a cheerleader for others to do that.
Wow.
right? To show up with all of our identities that may be congruent, they may be in alignment, they may seem or be perceived as contradictory, but for us to be able to show up, Martin and Joya, in all of our spaces, to be able to be our full selves with no limitations, no oppression, discrimination, but from abundance and kindness and creativity and fun.
I love that. I'll tell you something. When I was working with, I know Joy the Wise Woman well, and I really had, she kept saying, I want my own voice. I want to be known on your show. And I was like, I was a little scared. I was like, I don't know. I want to be out there as Martin and Joy the Wise Woman. And Joy says, of course you do. I'm the one that's guiding you through life. You can't keep me a secret. But it was scary because it's not what everybody's doing. It's I'm the salmon running upstream. And people say, who is Joy the Wise Woman? I said, I'm Joy the Wise Woman. That's the name of my spirit. We all, by the way, we all have a Joy the Wise Woman. Whatever we decide to call that part of that is our essence. That is what you're talking about. That is that divine creative life force within us that if we get out of our own way, we can really have a good, exciting life, right?
Absolutely. And for some people, that may show up in connection to ancestors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that we are not traveling, navigating this earth alone, but that there are prayers and celebration and dance and whispers that are coming from the lineage long before us.
Yes.
And so, what a beautiful gift to know that they may have had talents and gifts, but because of the times, right? Fear, scarcity, they weren't able to tap into them, or they weren't able to make a living doing them, but they've been passing that stuff down to you and me. They've been saying, I couldn't do it in this time, but you can, my child. You can. And so we have to be able to be in places where, whether it's stillness or affirmative prayer, where we get those messages, where we're clear. It could be a media fast. So that, because I know if I watch media every morning, my days and weeks don't go well. Right? It's too much clutter. It's too much.
I am a big believer. I think we were talking before we got on the show that on Sunday is my rest day, and I turn off any communication with the outside world, because for instance, we have an inside world and we have an outside world, and for most of us today, the virtual world is our outside world. That's our door to the outside world. And at noon on Sunday, I shut it down and I go inside and I spend that time. But you were giving me chills a while ago when you were talking about ancestors, and you're going to think this is kind of strange, but you won't. I think you're going to get this. Last year, I had a deep calling to go to Africa and meet one of my clients, Ava Henry. I think you know this story, a little bit of the story.
Yes.
And and all the things in my rational mind would say, how are you going to get a paying client in the middle of in a refugee camp in Africa? No, you can't. But my divine intuition says, you got to go. You got to go. There is no doubt about it. You're going. So I got there, and I'm the whitest looking person you can imagine, but this is the honest to God truth. Talk about answers. I felt like I got home. I felt like I had ancient years of, felt so connected to Abba in a divine way. I mean, it was like divine intervention. I was like, oh my God, I am home, brother. I am here to help you. I hear your call for help. And I am here, and I am so glad to be, I got to give myself chills, by the way. I am so glad to be home with you. Yes. And I have missed you so much.
Yes.
And it was like, here we are. I mean, he is this beautiful, black, gay Ugandan man. And I am a handsome, old, white American gay man.
Claim it. I know that's right.
And I'll tell you, I'm a sexy, old, gay, white man. And we just connected at that deep agape brotherly love that is just so powerful. And that's what's formed this relationship that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about. I got something. I'm going to ask you to join us on something we got going on this Saturday. And I think you'd be great for that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, I just want to tell you, jump in and say, you just gave me chills when you were talking about ancestors, because
absolutely
just brought up the vibration of that ancestral heritage of that where we white people come from, by the way.
And the word is vibration. That's exactly what it's vibration, it's energy, right? It
Yeah,
is the fact that when we release song and prayers and poetry, that's why the arts and creativity is so important. That's why when I facilitate workshops and create brave spaces, there's always art component. Either I open with a list poem, I walk participants and attendees through creating their own poems, because that art is literally right vibrations and energy that is moving through generations, through time.
absolutely. You know, as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the relationship and the universe and your relationship in it, understand energy, vibration, and frequency. Everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. And what you and I both do as teachers and educators in this
Mm.
world today is we find people, we teach people, this is how you get into, this is how you tap into the vibrational frequency of the creator of the universe within ourselves, so that we can align our bodies and our minds and our souls to go out and become participants in the creation of the world.
Yes. And I think one of the ways you and I connected was that you embody one of my mantras, which is and both, right? So,
And both, absolutely.
you know, you are you, and then there's Joy, the wise woman. That's and both.
Right.
You know, the other way I think about it is like the rule of three, because too often we're presented with a question or a scenario and someone does either or, one of two options, right? But if you always think three or more, you are going to expand the opportunities that are before you. Your thinking changes and it shifts, right? So it's not, you know, oh, I'm broke or I'm wealthy. It could be, oh, I'm rich in these areas and I'm gaining in these areas. It's affirmations of like, you know, one of my tips specifically for money for folks is when you feel the worst. So when you're paying 3 or 4 back to back bills, you know, your body tends to kind of be like, oh, this is a lot, or I'm spending a lot of money. It's in that moment you say, I am a money magnet. It's in
Yeah.
that moment where you say, money comes to me easily and rapidly, right? So it is in the moment where you feel the most vulnerable, insecure, alone, isolated, excluded, that then you use language, music, creativity to do the absolute opposite. And the universe will say, I hear you. I see you. I'm going to
Yeah.
send this to
Because
you.
because when those negative feelings come up, when those feelings, we all get them, we all have. We're human, and I love that you said where there's the human, and there's the being, and that's the two, and and then there's three when you got those two, when you're aware that those are two different energy sources. And Eckhart Tolle calls that there are millions of humans. There's only one being.
Mm,
There's only one
mhm,
heartbeat. And we're all
mm.
swimming in this great big sort of energetic field, some people call it the quantum field of unconditional love that's holding everything together, including these things that we think are horrible, like this war. And they are horrible. They're painful. But guess what? There is this unitive loving force that's holding all of this together. All the what we think's good or bad, it is holding it all for a purpose, for a better world, for something we don't know. And we can, if we just open up our hearts and know we can participate in this co-creation of a world, it just gets a lot more exciting.
That's right. And if we look for connection, right? And look for and recognize what we may feel and see in others. Absolutely. Yep. And
Right.
I think even affirmative prayer. I mean, you're a spiritual coach, teacher, educator. You know, one of the things is the kind of the past, younger Shaashawn, I was very much of a woe is me prayer. Oh,
Oh
creator,
yeah, we all know. We,
spiritual,
we, we
get me
all know.
out of this situation. Why me? Oh no, why is this lesson coming back? Did I not learn it? Right? I was a very much what I call woe is me prayer. And then when I was introduced to affirmative prayer, right? Creator, entities, you know, please place me in a space where my gifts are appreciated or valued. My professional careers took off, phone rings, opportunities come,
Absolutely.
emails flood your inbox,
Absolutely.
right? Even
Yeah.
when it's like, well, I'm the only one on both sides of my mother and father's family who was out, right? As a queer person, that even isn't even statistically accurate, right? So somebody is, but just I'm the most out one. So instead of being like, oh, why me? Why is this mine? It was like, because I love. And what a beautiful manifestation of love. And yes, my partners have been masculine presenting women, and that is such a beautiful gift that this universe has, that we don't always have to do a default of lipstick and stilettos and femininity. Female leadership, woman leadership can be masculine presenting folks. It can be
Absolutely.
folks in a three-piece suit and a tie, and they're not trying to be something other than themselves. Where do they get their power, their comfort, their light source? And so being able to step into those things and say, okay, if I do perceive to be the only one, I'm going to be the best one, because I'm going to be the best me. And I'm going to unlearn any negative messages, and I'm going to embrace the positive. The queer community is where I learned community.
Right.
It's where I learned how to celebrate.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I call those, and that's what I do as a coach. And I coaching in queer basis. I want to help people when you get into that authentic self, and you can show yourself as exactly who you are without any need to try to fit in with the way the world wants you to fit in. That is exactly how we unlock our queer superpowers.
Yes.
Everybody comes with superpowers, but I'll tell you this, I know us queer people, we have a unique, because of the fact we are different and we are marginalized. When we find that authentic self, it immediately unlocks those superpowers, and that's why our careers and our businesses and our sense of we open up our sense of purpose and meaning in the world.
Right. We've had to study ourselves, right? We've had to
Right.
be introspective. We've had to reflect. We've had to think about that. We've spent, I spent years crying into journals, right? Trying to figure out these attractions and what does this mean? And, I thought I was obligated to repeat what I call the Cosby Show, because my parents are still married. They've been married 47 years, and they have a beautiful, rich marriage. And as the firstborn, I felt obligated to try to reproduce that.
Right.
Right. And so for many years, I didn't step into my attractions and my behaviors and my sexual orientation, because I was like, I owe them. But that's not what the universe and the ancestors wanted. They don't want me to live my life thinking I owe it to my parents. They want me to live the life with my time, my treasure, my talents, and my gifts. Because if not, then I rob the universe of those. Right. And so, yeah, it's exciting and it's on purpose.
I think we have an honor. Jesus. This is as a teacher. I'll tell you this. Jesus gave us one thing to do. It was very clear. It was the one thing he said. I want you to do this. If you do nothing else, do this. Love your God with all your heart and all your might, all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I have found that when I practice that, it's easier to say than do. By the way.
Absolutely.
In the first person, but I have found what to me means fall madly in love with yourself and your life first. I mean, really look at yourself in the mirror and say, you are awesome. And that's what happened this Sunday for me when I was having my rest day, and I was spending some time with Joy, the wise woman. And she said, Martin, I just love you. I am so proud of you for what you've been doing. You are really stepping up big. And I want to tell you something. You're a master student of the universe. You're not just a student of the universe. You are a master student. And let me tell you, so when the divine tells you
that you are a master student,
it's like, you better take that certificate and put it on the wall. And
yes.
I will say that inside of me, there was a transformational shift that allowed me to fully accept that as something to be really proud of, because that helped me step into a new level of awareness of what I can do to make a difference in this world. As a master student, now I can share what I've learned and what I've known over the last 40-something years as a contemplative prayer and student to help others. And that's what I think a master does, is they really now begin. You don't have to look for anything more. You've learned it. Now it's time for you to share it with others.
Yes, you make me think about, Dr. Maya Angelou, who would say we need more translators in the world. We need people who can take information, lived and learned experiences, and then share it with others through metaphors, similes, however we break down information. That's a cultivated skill set. So that's why I identify as a multi-intersectional and multimodal educator and engager, because that's what it is. It's me being able to have studied subjects or material, think lived experience, so theory and book, and then bridge that with practice, and then be able to set an environment where people explore on their own, right? And that can be justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging work. That could just be about things of what's your name origin, right? What are your gifts and talents? And a lot of times people will be like, I don't know. So then I'll prompt them with questions that say, what do strangers compliment you on the most? That's a window into your gift, right? What do people seek your counsel on? That's a window into your gift. What can you lose hours doing and it doesn't feel like work? And so oftentimes I say not sleeping, not eating, and not sex. Okay, like let's put those three to the side. What can you lose hours and you're still invigorated and energized? Whatever that answer is, that's a window into your gift. So us being able to use our lived experiences, our learned experiences to present people with spaces where they can ground and center and breathe and contemplate these things. Woo! Those are the best days.
That
And the
is
money follows, right? As we talk about financial health
everything.
and wellness, the
Everything.
money follows.
There's a wonderful new song out by Willie Nelson. It's called "Energy Follows Thought," and I thought so. It was like he says, "Imagine it and imagine what you want and get out of the way.
Yes.
Imagine what you want and get out of the way, and be careful what you think about because that's what you're going to get." And so what
Right.
I talk about is if you're, and this is why it's so important to raise our vibrational frequency out of that negative world, because when we're feeling bad, we're actually living in the past. We're living in the past, and we're afraid something bad's going to happen in the future. So we're not living in the moment. So what we need
Mhm.
to do is we need to find a way to get back into this moment to raise our vibrational frequency up into that alignment with the divine.
Right.
And it's from that place that we can say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Really? I don't know what's going to happen. I certainly don't know what's going to happen in the
Yeah.
next hour.
Yep.
So if I'm going to project something out into the future, instead of projecting some doom and gloom outcome, why don't I fall into that positive energy of the creator within me, Joy the Wise Woman, and say, let's create a picture of the future we want to have.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's part of this, transformational piece. I mean, I've been very blessed to be the first, and HERstory, THEIRstory, history makers. I'm sure there's those who are watching. And sometimes I think we neglect to hear everything they went through, right? When someone's the first, the innovator, the first one, um, we just think of the accomplishment, or we see that they get attention for it. But what did they have to sacrifice? What did they have to prioritize? In what ways did they have to grow new qualities that they didn't possess at the start of that journey? That's why I am so big about celebrating the firsts of something or the lasts of something, which we tend to forget about too. I just transitioned out of academia, and that's where that hit me, was like, yeah, we celebrate the first. So I've been the inaugural in a lot of different things: radio, higher ed, Governor Tom Wolf's Commission on LGBT Affairs in Pennsylvania. But what about the last? So the last student to go through a certain major before they close the major, the last student to work on the last person to work on a production line before they close that factory. They have a story to tell too.
I
Right.
love that. That
And
is
how do
so
we tap
wonderful.
into that, right? How do we give them space to talk about the fullness of what they experience, pain, pleasure, everything in between? And so that's part of the work that I do too, is getting people to share, what are you the first to do? Because we're still doing that across sections, right? We've still got LGBTQI plus folks who are the first to hold a space in a presidential cabinet. We've got Dr. Rachel Levine from Pennsylvania, who's our first, transgender woman who is in Biden's, cabinet. We're still having, I was the first Black woman to be the board of directors of the LGBT Center in Central Pennsylvania. Like, those things matter. No, I may not have my name on a billboard that's national, but in those communities that I had the pleasure to serve in and lead and connect with and listen from, that made a difference, right? Because some little queer person saw this coca complected skin, or saw these natural coils, or saw me with my partner and was like, oh, wow, right. We have full lives as queer
Yes.
folks.
And that just gave me chills, because I'm going to tell you what I'm about to do, the first thing to do.
Okay.
It's called Project Diamond Mine. And as you know, I went to Africa last year, and I met Abba Henry, who is now my virtual assistant and also my partner in this project, Project Diamond Mine. And when I got there, I realized we have a real problem in Kenya for the queer people. We've got him at the time, he's now living in Nairobi at the time. We've got about 600 of us living in very, very dangerous, inhospitable conditions in a refugee camp in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kenyan government is doing all they can, but there's no protection for our people, because only about 600 of us, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of other refugees around Africa. I don't need to tell you what the Sudanese and other African groups think about queer people. They think we're worthless. And they often will go out, and they have gangs that go out and rape lesbians, and they will torture and hurt our queer people. So that was me. I got to do something about this, because for me, I don't see them as worthless. I see these as diamonds.
Yeah.
I see these as the most. You know what happens to diamonds? Diamonds, the more they're under pressure, and the more they get stronger, they get brighter, they get more resilient. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the first. Because I know what we need right now, though. We need really good talent in virtual space as we move toward virtual space. So we're going to create a talent agency. It's called the Diamond Mine Talent Agency. It is going to be the best, the most elite virtual source for the most elite virtual source for talent in the world.
Yes.
And they're going to come out of the ashes. We're going to mine these diamonds. And we're creating a course called Building a Team of Champions. We're going to help them rise to the top to be that best. And we're going to create the most powerful, the most creative, the most profitable, this is a for-profit enterprise, by the way, of having all these people for the first time, queer Africans, come out and be number one in entrepreneurs, number one in the best of the best class of virtual assistants in the world.
You are defining it, you're designing it, and you're doing it.
And it's a lot of fun. And it's scary, because people don't know what in the hell we're doing. But I got to tell you, I don't care, because we're doing it. We're not.
And you're on fire, right? Because you're not operating out of fear.
And you know what Joy the Wise Woman told me? She says, you don't dare ask for permission to do this. You go out and ask for help. And that's what we're doing. We're asking for help, because I don't know how to do this. But how, once you understand the problem and you see a vision of a solution, the how is the divine. How we get from point A to point B, the doer in my life and the doer in your life, is the divine. We just have to have enough trust in that divine presence to get the hell out of the way and let Joy do her work. Because
I love it.
She's going to connect with your divine presence. She's going to connect with Abba's divine presence. She's going to connect with the divine presence of other thought leaders and change agents in the world. And that's how we're going to get from the refugee camp and other areas of all over Africa. Africans are treated like second-class citizens. And that's how we're going to take the unsafe conditions over Africa.
Yeah.
And we're going to mine these wonderful, precious diamonds and turn them into this wonderful new operation. And we're
I
going to
mean, you're
hear,
doing it globally, right? You're
yeah,
assembling an A team. Some of us call them families of choice, friends of choice, blood family, but you're creating an A team. The other thing is you're talking about transferable skills, right? And I know we're getting short on time, and that's one of the things I'll leave folks is I want them to think of themselves as a fabulous force field of transferable skills. You're not just any degrees you do or don't have. You're not just your profession right now or in the past. You are transferable skills. So that means it's limitless, right? If
yeah.
you've got skills, then you just go find professions, you find vehicles for which to deploy your skills, but you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. And again, money will follow when you do that.
And I'm going to follow up with one tip too. If you want to have the most valuable skill in the world, be a really good listener.
Mm.
Be someone who has developed and mastered the skill for deep listening. And that's in meditation. Deep listening to yourself, deep listening to that divine presence when you practice that deep inner listening, you'll be better at listening to others. That's the one thing. Taking what you said and just expanding it a little bit. If you want to find that one skill that will set you apart from everybody else and make you the most valuable person you could possibly be, learn to listen deeply.
So
Starting
a
with yourself,
an aspiring master listener.
aspiring, and that's coming from a master teacher, student of the universe.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you're right. We are coming. I knew this was going to happen to us today. We are getting up on the end of this half hour, and I know that people who are hearing this are going to want to get to know you. What is the simplest, the most direct way that people can find you who want to get to know and meet you?
Sure. They can do Shaashawn.com, which is SHAASHAWN. LinkedIn is Shaashawn S.Dial. I brand my first name. My mother created it. She's part Shawnee Indian. And when you break down Shawnee, phonetically it's SHAA. And she always loved Sean. So I'm Shaashawn put together. So I'm that on Instagram and Twitter. So please connect with me that way. And I want to do a shout out to all the masculine presenting women and humans and non-binary folks in this world. You are a masterpiece in evolution. And if nobody told you today, it's my honor to say that you are one of a kind. And we've each been given unique mix of skills and talents that the world needs us to give in order to make the world better. But we love you, masculine presenting women, your unique mix and how you take up space on this earth. So everybody take up space. Why not you?
Absolutely, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. That's really good. That's really good. That's a great way to come to a conclusion. And let me just give a little shout out for how people can connect with me. I have two Facebook groups that you're invited to. One of them is everybody's invited to it, and that's called the Financial Mystic Sanctuary. It's on Facebook. Anybody can join that, and you can find out about you can learn from a master student of the universe over there. That's for every single one. I also have another Facebook group that's specifically for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. The reason I do that is because I do shadow work and I don't really understand the interior landscape of women because I have never experienced the interior landscape of women because I'm not a woman. So I'm not excluding you. That's not where I can provide the best value.
You're coming from a place of lived experience. That's
That's
beautiful.
my lived experience. I've tried with women, and it usually doesn't work out too well because it comes across as mansplaining, and women don't like mansplaining. I learned that the hard way. So those are the two groups. One is the Financial Mystic Sanctuary. Everybody's invited to come join us over there, and the other group is called Financial Heart Space for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. And please join us over there and get to know us. And if you got any questions, you can go there and send me a direct message. And I'll always reach out because I love to talk to people. I love to
Love
get
it.
to
I
know
know.
them.
I've enjoyed connecting with you and learning from you and getting excited about these projects that you have going on globally and working with Abba, who's amazing. So it has just been a
He is
pleasure. And
amazing,
again,
isn't
thank
he?
you for extending this invitation to share time and space and information virtually.
Okay, well, I'm going to close this out. Don't run off too fast. Come on, hang out with me backstage for just a second, okay?
Absolutely.